New life helps you.
It does, it does. Gerald Celente, welcome. It's been
Thank you.
a year and a half we have spoken.
Yeah.
And in fact, last time we spoke was in early February 2020. And it was just the beginning of this craziness that's been with us for the last 18 months. And you were one of the first ones who called it for what it is, um, a completely fake crisis. What's your opinion after 18 months of this?
Well, a couple of opinions. One is that how easily people follow. And when this happened, the cover of our magazine on January 28th, 2020, remember it begins in Yuan province, Yuan city of China, and on Chinese Lunar New Year.
Yes.
So this is 2 weeks later, a week and a half later. Our cover was coronavirus, 106 dead in China. And our next line was 1.4 billion still alive. What the hell are you telling me 106 people died in a country where the reason they wear those masks is because of all the air pollution? And only about 1.5 million die every year from that. But they don't keep adding those numbers up. I think 6.7 million die each year around the world from air pollution. But yet they keep adding the coronavirus numbers up each year. Oh, 3 million have died. Yeah, well, what, 100 million died of air pollution? How many died from poisons that they put in our food, the pesticides that they spray everywhere, the chemicals that they dump in the water, in the air, in the earth? We won't talk about that. The coronavirus. So, as I said, they call this at the beginning, they called it a war. All the politicians called it a war. And I said, just as they marched off to Mussolini, saluted Stalin, and heiled Hitler, they marched off to the COVID war. And one of our covers of the magazine was dumb enough to believe George W. Bush's was, dumb enough to believe the COVID war.
For those who don't know, you're the editor of the Trends Journal, and I am a subscriber, of course, and I encourage all our listeners to be. I just have here your latest one. I think it's the one of June. Was it what 15th? Was it 2 days ago?
Yep.
And what I must say to our viewers is that your analysis, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, even more, are on spot correct in predicting trends. And trends are not prophecies, it's the direction in which we're going. And recently you have predicted not only all this COVID, and people can go on your channel and see all what you're saying, but you've predicted in your magazine the inflation that is coming. And this is, among all the trends you predict, probably one of the most dangerous for most people, as it eats away their savings, it eats away on their wages. How could you see this happening over the next few months or years, and how can people protect themselves against this inflation?
The inflation is happening. It's a supply and demand issue. And demand has gone way up since the COVID war started ramping down. And they had all those supply chain interruptions that have driven the prices up. They're going to come down, but they're still going to be way higher. So the politicians and the central banksters are going to say things, well, you see, the price of lumber has come down by 40%. Yeah, but it's up 170%, or whatever the number is. So it's still going to be high. It's hard to say how to protect yourself because the markets are rigged. I'm not making that up. JP Morgan Chase. If you or I did this, they'd have us in jail. They'd send the cops out. They rigged the precious metals markets. It's a fact. They would fine $900 million. Chump change for the billions that they rigged and the hundreds of tens of billions that people lost when you put all the trading together. So gold and silver prices should be going up, but they're not. And so the banksters don't want that, because then the people see how bad things are. And then again, real estate is a good investment, over the long term, but it depends on what kind of real estate and where. So for example, commercial real estate's going down the toilet. People are commuting. They're not commuting as much now. The whole new world that was created by the COVID war of, Zooming and not going to work full time. So what's going to happen to commercial real estate? You should see New York City. I was just down there this weekend. First of all, the streets are packed. People are having a good time. They're letting loose. Secondly, everywhere you look, for rent, 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 retail for rent everywhere. Everywhere. From Fifth Avenue to the West Village, the hottest spots. But life is back on the street. And I haven't felt that vibe since the 70s and the 80s. But also the 70s and 80s is a wild time, man, But so the people want to break loose. So when you look at the opportunities, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to go into a new direction. They're tired of where they've been, particularly the young people. So it's the ups and downs. So where I am up in Kingston, New York, and you've been here, this is 90 miles north of New York City. According to Bloomberg several months ago, of all the prices of 181 cities in America, the prices went up here the highest. Because people know the crime rates are going to keep going up. Homeless, you go to Midtown, homeless everywhere. And there are real problems, real problems. So that's the kind of real estate. If it's going to be, I do consulting. And someone called up last March 2020. And they had a bid on a hotel on the Jersey Shore. Things are going way down. He showed me the pictures of everything, and I did research. I said, I can't tell you what to do. I said, but if it was me, I'd buy it. And they did. They bought it at rock bottom prices. And now it's way up there. Mm-hmm. And tourism is back. So those are the kinds of things you look at. Nothing goes on forever. Excuse me. So these are ups and down cycles. But I still believe real estate's going to go up. And gold and silver should be much higher. I invest in it. I don't tell people what to do. I don't give investment advice. But I mean, gold and silver just took a big hit. Mm-hmm. Because they're afraid that the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates. Could you imagine? How dare they raise interest rates and not keep money at 0%? So the big company, the Black Rocks and all the other big ones could get money for free and buy up everything. How dare they stop this? Well, we, the little people, when I was a young guy, they had a thing called savings accounts. Mm-hmm. You put your money in the bank and you got interest on it. Gone. Yep. So that's why the markets are going down, because they're afraid that they're going to stop the cheap money flow. What do you got in Europe? You got the ECB. You got negative interest rates. Switzerland was smart. They just refused again to join in with the ECB crowd.
We are here in Europe. The same people are getting out finally. It seems, however, that these confinements that we've had over the last year seem to be a sort of training for people to obey. One time you need to stay home, one time you need to put your mask, and then they let you get out, and then they close it again. Do you think they will close it again at some point this year?
I think they're going to start selling the new variant. The Delta variant's coming. The Delta variant's coming. Oh, it's worse than the other one. It's worse than the other one. Oh, the other one, when in Italy, the average age of the deaths was 81 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Switzerland, I think almost 40% of the people that died are from nursing homes.
Yeah, it's 84, the average in Switzerland.
Yeah, and 84 in Switzerland.
And
After, yeah, and you're going to live to like 184, so you lost 100 years of your life. And when you're in nursing home, after you go to nursing home, then you go to day camp and you start all over again. So this whole thing is, will they do it again? And I agree 100% what you just said. It's a power trip to see how easily they can control the people. I got this little clown over here, this little Andy Cuomo over here, daddy's boy. It would be nobody if daddy was a Mario, an arrogant little boy. He decided on his daddy's birthday on June 15th, his daddy's dead, that we're going to lift the restrictions now. No outrage. No outrage. The people follow.
But that was my follow question is there a risk, in your opinion, that over time people revolt?
Yes, there is. There will be. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And a lot of people are losing it. And they've had enough. As we say in the Bronx when I was a kid, and I'm a fighter. I used to have my own school of close combat. So these aren't empty words. When you call these people out, these politicians, these other government officials, they don't know whether to shit or piss. Boom, they go down like that.
Yeah.
When you get enough people saying, we've had enough of your shit. Okay, what can we do to... Well, don't raise your voice like that. That's not proper. You know what? That's the kind of shit. And I'm tired of it. I've had it. To word to me, dignitaries, officials, that's profanity. Your Honor, the Honorable, Prince, Nobleman. Nobleman? What am I, nothing? Oh, no, they're better than you. So when you tell somebody, fuck off, I had enough of your shit, that's not profanity. And that's what people should be doing right now. Fuck you, I had enough of your shit. Who the hell are you to tell me this crap? I know the facts. Facts. Facts don't count. I'm in charge. As an Italian, I'm ashamed of the Italians. Ashamed of them. Cinque Stelle and the Northern League. Oh, we're going to get out of the Euro. We're going to get out of the Eurozone. We're going to bring back our leader. And they bring in Mario Draghi. How low can you go? One of the biggest bankster bandits on the planet. All right? That's the people.
Now, this seems to be true all over the West, Canada, North America, Western Europe. However, as soon as you go elsewhere, Latin America, of course, Africa, Asia, Eastern Europe, all of this doesn't happen. It's much different.
It's happening. I mean, look what's going on. I mean, the people take to the streets in Colombia. They shoot them down. Chile just had an election, and Peru. They both brought in the total opposites, but the total opposites are more of the same of the same club. Mm-hmm. There's no evolution. There's no renaissance. Again, to me, the political parties are corrupt. It's a gang. It's a gang. To me, the only thing that works to the best is direct democracy.
Sometimes we are in Switzerland, we have it, and 3 days ago on Sunday, we had to vote whether we accepted all the laws that they have passed over the last year for this pandemic. And sadly, the people said, yeah, we accepted all because they were urgency laws. So sometimes even direct democracy, when the people are brainwashed or scared, even that goes for the sake of powerful organizations.
Yep, you're 100% right.
It's very
But but it's better than. At least there are other things. Switzerland hasn't been in a war since what, about 1857?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, and I've seen in your trend journals over the last year, you've added a segment on survival, which is a bit my field, and I was very curious what led you to that, and how do you see this being a fundamental trend in face of the many crises that are coming.
The readers that we have, they think for themselves, and they want to look at things from a lot of different levels, and survivalism is one of them, as well as being prepared for, look what happened when this thing happened. People ran out and bought things, and you were a shortage. So they're preppers too. So this is part of it. Learn how to take care of yourself, because the stronger you are, the less orders you take from everybody. And that's what you have to be. You have to build yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And Bradley Steiner, and me, just passed away recently. Rest in peace. He was my close combat teacher's teacher. This guy was the #1 guy in America as a close combat guy. And that's why we have. And then you look at the gun sales that have gone up in the United States; they're through the roof. You had 40 million people buy guns in 2020 because they know how bad things are going to get. And again, thinking about the sickness of this whole thing, what was the first thing that people did when the COVID war broke out? They ran out and bought toilet paper.
Toilet paper.
That shows you what kind of shitheads they are.
Yeah, that's funny. And
I'm not making that up. They ran out and bought toilet paper. Oh, they've been using toilet paper since I think 300 million years ago. Yeah, they've always been using toilet paper.
Yeah, it's a strange psychological bias, this toilet paper thing.
But the point I'm making is it shows you how easy people follow and how dumb they are.
Yes.
The Neanderthals used to use toilet paper. It's a fact. The government told me this, so I know it's true.
In fact, your audience is definitely some, as you said, people who think by themselves. And recently, you have held in Kingston, New York. I've seen the 4-hour-long recording of you call this the Unite for Peace event, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Now, is that a way to tell people that, in fact, when we stand together as a group, as people who have good connections between themselves, good friendship, we can actually keep our freedoms?
Yes. I love being an American from what America used to stand for. As I say, as a Napolitano, if I was born in the Bronx, I was born to be free. If I was born in Alta Villa Appina, Vica Quenz, I wouldn't be me. I'd be caught in that culture. I grew up at the perfect time. I'm born in 1946, right after the war. America's free. My father used to say to me, I shoot my mouth off, Papagallo, he says, stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself. You get in a fight, you argue with your father, and you say, you little bastard. He said, you think I tell you what I tell you because I want you to be like me? I want you to be yourself. That was the America that I grew up in. And it breaks my heart to see what's happened. And there's a quote by Samuel Adams, one of the founding fathers: it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. A minority. Brush fires of freedom. So I started the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace, and Justice. And that to me is the way to unite. not politically, and any God you believe in that believes in freedom, peace, and justice, come on board. We could beat them like that. Beat them like that. Yeah. There was a thing called the Berlin Wall. How did it come down? People came out, they didn't leave. More people came, they didn't leave. More people came. More people came. And all of a sudden, these tough guys, the military guys, they're taking off their military jackets, putting down their guns, because they know they're outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. And the wall comes down.
Yeah, I like the peaceful, non-violent approach, because that's how you defeat dictatorships.
That's it.
It's through peace and show of freedom, for sure. There is a risk, however. We've seen in France with the yellow vest, which were peaceful. They were shot. They were shot at by the police. There were people died. Many people had their arms or eyes torn off. The governments of the Soviet Union and of Eastern Germany, as you mentioned, might have been much kinder than the ones we have right now in the West, or maybe less ruthless than the ones we have. It's going to be long, isn't it? It's not going to be something we win in a month. It's going to take years.
It's going to take years. And that's if we start to do it. I'm doing everything I can. I mean, I'm one guy, I don't have billionaires' money behind me. I got to raise money. These things cost money to put on. We had great music. Smokey Hormel Foods. This is his grandfather. That was Smokey, the band. Of course, he donated everything. And he's a fan, so he's a part of the whole thing. He's a part of the movement. But I don't have big money behind me. All the money comes in is the people donating to OccupyPeace.com. And, I'm running a business. I'm printing out a magazine. You see you remember what the magazine was, and you see what it is.
It's excellent.
It's last week was 149 pages.
It's very high quality, I must say. And
so I mean, it's a lot of work. So we don't have the big money behind us. So the people have to unite. That's the only way we win.
Now, you've seen in the US and now in Europe as well, there is a significant majority of people who are completely numb to and obey. And there are very active minorities of people. I think we call them woke. They have this cancel culture, which is completely subservient to the power that be. You and I we are different generations, but both our generations have seen people fighting the power by being against it, not being with it, which is quite striking in today's young culture. And I wonder, how do we wake up this majority who is silent today, who is subservient and obeying?
You're not going to. You never do. When the American Revolution, like when it began, like only 4 or 5% were for it. Even at the height of it, only 50% were for it. You're not going to wake them up. That's the other thing. When I used to get upset, my father, may he rest in peace, would say to me, son, he said, take it easy. People have little minds. You're not going to change them. They'll follow. You don't need them. They'll follow. You have to unite the irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. You're not going to change the people that don't know, and they'll never learn. Dogs don't make cats.
You have written a few years back a great story about your aunt Zizi. I think Zizi stands for Zia, right?
Yeah.
And I recently wrote a novel about my grandfather, which is probably the same generation of. He was born 1906, so it's probably the same generation. And I think both would be appalled to see the world today. In fact, you quote your Zizi to say that what's the famous quote you always mention about the media, about what's on television?
Well, that's inspired me to write the book. When I used to go visit her, and I was cleaning the dishes for her. So, sit down, because she couldn't walk. No, I'll clean the dishes. And she had the television on. And she said, shut that damn thing off. She said, I listened to the news all day yesterday. What a bunch of shit. They must think we're all morons.
Exactly.
There's an 86-year-old woman saying this. What a bunch of shit. And they do. They think we're all morons. And we are, as a majority. Look at the public school education system. It's a brainwashing system brought to you by the Weimar Republic during the beginning of the industrial age. When people used to make their own things, and now you can't make your own things. Get on that assembly line. Learn how to follow orders. Learn how to read, write, do math. Follow orders. And that's the one we have. See, going back to the woke. The crap that they're teaching kids in school. Useless. Mm-hmm. And when school stunk when I was in it, I hated it. I hated every day of it. I ran away from kindergarten at 4.5 years old and crossed the Boston Post Road in the Bronx, which was the major road before the highways. I hated it. And I think I have something in common with Einstein. He got left back too in school. We were both stupid.
Yeah, it is a different. It's not going to be a reform, that's for sure. It's too late. So, for people who want to know more, people who may not know your excellent work, your website is transjournal.com?
Transjournal.com, yeah.
Or is it the Transjournal? I'll put the link.
Just transjournal.com.
And I really advise people who are watching and listening that it's worth to subscribe. I use it for my personal investments, for my thinking of the trends, and it's really a great. It's worth the money to invest in it.
Yeah, it's hardly anything. So we have to. I mean, it went from a quarterly to a monthly to a weekly. It's 100 times the size, and we're only charging $129 a year. It's $2 that's like buying a newspaper one day.
Yeah.
For a week.
It's really worth it, and it supports the work that you do to help wake up people in their own, or at least the people who are woken up, at least to coordinate and do the right things and to stick it to the man, because we need to do it.
Well, I think there are plenty of us to change this. That's the reality. I estimate there are 30 to 40% of the people that have had it that won't take their crap anymore from that's being shoved down their throat. And when you look at who you're fighting nobodies. Yeah. You could beat them like that. And that's like you said, the more people that subscribe, the more we can do.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, you know what I'm going to do this weekend? I'm going to Italy, and I'm going to get you a box of those biscuits from my hometown, and I will send the box to you.
Grazie.
Gerald, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and we should do this a little bit more often, because 1.5 years was way too long.
Way too long. You look wonderful. Great being on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep.
So